please rise for our processional and for the honor guard. Only as you're able. Pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Greetings, beloved. I am Dr. Felicia LeBoy, lead pastor and life coach of the best church this side of heaven, First United Methodist Church in downtown Elgin, Illinois. I greet you in the name of the one who loves you far more than you can dare to even imagine or think. If you're part of our extended family joining us online or on the radio, we greet you as well, and we want you to know, along with our visitors, if you ever find yourself in this part of God's vineyard, you are always welcomed at First United. Our house, it is God's house. We celebrate with you today, our first responders and community volunteers day, and we want all of you to know how much we appreciate all of you and all the work that you do. We know that it's often a thankless job, probably often a complaining job, but we want you to know that we appreciate everything that you do, all the hard work that you do that no one often sees, but that we have the privilege of seeing because we see what you do behind the scenes. We also want to welcome Pastor Rydell, who is with us this morning, who snuck in over the weekend, who is here. For all of you that volunteer, especially our community partners who have helped us with our winter warming shelter, our friends from the Youth Build program, everyone that helps us make our city much better than it is, we want to say thank you. Now, for those of you who are visiting, we have a tradition here at First. We know that everybody doesn't get to say hello to everyone or show their beautiful teeth, but won't you show those pearly whites this morning, wave to someone you don't know? Wave. Don't forget the folks in the balcony in the booth. Just say good morning to someone this morning. Give a big smile. Come on, come on. We want to thank our bagpiper and drummer this morning. Won't you give them a warm handshake for the... Won't you thank our police and fire honor guard this morning for that wonderful presentation of arms this morning? Won't you join me in thanking that? I have just two brief announcements, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cindy and Al. First of all, some of you all may remember a couple years ago that there was a film production company housed here that made a movie called For Profit, acclaim, and it's going to be released at the Marcus Theaters on June the 12th. We want to make sure that we have a good showing, and so I want to invite you all to come. There's more about that in your bulletin. And second of all, our United Women in Faith will be here on Tuesday morning cooking and making casserole rolls for the Ruth Project. Some of you all may remember that the Ruth Project is that group group that helps foster families from 9 to help with those folks. Kathy and Jane, will you raise your hand so people know who you are, so they know if you all, who to find out more information about the Ruth Project from. And I'm going to turn this over to Cindy.
Good morning. I have a couple just brief announcements. Obviously, the shirts are in. You can pick them up after the service. They'll be over on the left when you exit the sanctuary. Also, in the narthex, there is a sign-up sheet for the Pride Parade. We have a spot for 6 people to ride in the cars if you don't want to walk. 3 of those spaces have already been claimed, so there are 3 left. But if you don't have to sign up, you can just show up. But if you want a seat in the car, you do have to sign up so we don't overpromise. Sign up. There'll be a sheet out in the narthex for you to do so, and make sure, especially if you want to ride. It's not a long walk. It's basically a block. It's about a 20-minute walk, and it's fairly easy, but if you want to be a passenger in the car, you got to sign up. All right, on that note, I'd like to turn the mic over to Alan Walters.
Good morning. This is the second of 4 talks I'm delivering this year concerning the 100th anniversary of the construction of this great edifice. In January, when we last spoke, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the laying of the cornerstone. We reviewed the history of the congregation up to that point and discussed our 2 prior church buildings, both construction process. It began in September 1923 and ended in November of 24. As you may recall, by the early 1920s, the second edifice, the 1866 building known as the Centenary Church, was proving to be too small to serve our growing congregation. By the 19-teens, grander structure. The 1914 cobblestone house, once belonging to early settler and Elgin's first mayor, Dr. Joseph Teft, was purchased for $14,000. It stood just west of the Centenary Church. For a short time, the cobblestone would house our Sunday school and nursery. In 1916, another parcel of land to the west was purchased, bringing the church's land holding to more than half of today's footprint. To put this time period in perspective, in 1916, the insurance for the parish house cost $6.50 annually. In 1917, the hitching posts outside the Centenary Church were taken down. And in 1919, the pastor's salary was raised $500 to $3,000 annually. How much is that? With Elgin now a city of 26,000 souls, the belief developed that a 3rd building was needed to match the congregation's and the city's dynamic growth. In early 1920, a building committee chaired by W.P. Lee, including F.T. Norris, D.B. Ellis, Orlo Salisbury, and David C. Cook, was formed. While energy was growing towards the leap of faith that a new church building would require, perhaps God, in the form of Mother Nature, stepped in. The 1920 Palm Sunday tornado damaged the roof and one of the twin steeples of the old building. This no doubt accelerated the drive to replace the Centenary Church. The building committee toured the Chicago area looking at other churches. The music department was consulted as to what brand and style of organ to purchase. David C. Cook reported writing hundreds of letters to leading Sunday school superintendents and church leaders to learn the latest in Sunday school design and technology. In 1923, Talmadge and Watson, a Chicago architectural firm, was hired. They were nationally known for their beautiful churches. The expectation was that First Methodist Elgin would be the largest and finest church in Elgin and in this part of the state outside of Chicago. The architects would have 165 feet of frontage to work with on Milwaukee Street, now known as Highland Avenue. The lot was 132 feet deep, reaching Division Street. As plans took shape, several characteristics became evident. The new church would be neo-Gothic in style, with a main auditorium that would seat about 1,000 people. The ceiling would be 70 feet at its peak. the church would have a copper roof. Sunday school enrollment was 1,100 students, and Sunday worship attracted 450 adults. Committee member D.B. Ellis boasted we would have the finest Sunday school in the United States. Slides were made of proposed plans, brochures were printed. A final plan was agreed to. We would have a brick church containing 101 rooms. Floor plans for the church were printed in the papers for all to see. The men's room, not a bathroom, mind you, but the men's conference room. What would later become known as the parlor was denoted as the women's room. In the basement, today's DC cook room started out as a gymnasium with locker rooms and showers. Also, the basement would include a modern moving picture screen. At first, the new church was expected to cost $250,000. On Liberty Bond Sunday, members pledged $78,000 towards the cost. This was $18,000 more than the hoped-for $60,000. In April of '23, at an all-church meeting with 180 members present, a unanimous vote was recorded to accept the Talmadge and Watson plan, as presented by Mr. Talmadge himself. The cost was now estimated to be $280,000. Schmidt Brothers Construction of Chicago would build our new church. Since the old church would be torn down, where would services be held? Well, at the Rialto Theater, of course, on the west side of Fountain Square. A temporary building was constructed on Division Street near Spring Street to house the church offices. The Sunday school was invited to meet at the First Evangelical Church, kitty corner from ours. Later, that church would become Faith Methodist. The building plan called for the demolition to begin in September of '23. First to fall was the Teft cobblestone. Next to go was the Centenary Church's annex, an addition that had been built on the west side of the second building. In mid-October 1923, the final Sunday morning service was held in the Centenary Church. The service included a groundbreaking. The pastor, Reverend Joshua B. Martin, the choir, and official members formed a procession to march to the building site. There, Mr. William Lanning, a 70-year member of the church and a bricklayer who had helped build the old church, took part in the groundbreaking. Sunday evening, Dr.